Hello again. In this segment of the presentation, I would like to talk about the challenges of relations between states in periods of transition. We have concentrated, for the most part so far, on political conflicts and political tensions within states undergoing processes of transition. And this is, of course, not the only field in which politics happen. States do not exist in isolation, but they also exist in relation to one another. And this is a problem that is of particular interest to those of us looking at the states of Southeast Europe. Why? First of all, if you look at relations within the region, at relations among states within Southeast Europe, there are two factors that come to the fore immediately. One of them is that among many of the states, there are outstanding unresolved territorial conflicts. This is a source of uncertainty in relation to a lot of states, but particularly in relation to states with contested legitimacy and contested territorial control. This is the case in relations between Bosnia and Herzegovina and both Serbia and Croatia, and it is even more strongly the case if we want to talk about relations between Serbia and Kosovo, where one of the states attempts to deny the existence or right to existence of one of the other states. Parallel to this, because we are talking about states coming out of a period of intense violence, much of the violence carried out by military and paramilitary forces against civilians, states are faced with grievances, with demands for compensation, with demands for reconciliation, with unaddressed requirements for dialogue. This becomes an issue in particular because important external actors, for example, the European Union, say that one condition for accession to membership of any state is that they have resolved bilateral disputes with other states, in particular with other states that are already members of the European Union or that are candidate members for the European Union. And I think none of us will have any difficulties thinking of cases where this is an important stumbling block. Another set of constraints on states in the region comes not from their relations with one another, but from their relations with states outside of the region, in particular with large-scale global powers. And this is visible in terms of alignment with blocs becoming a more prominent issue, as it is less the case that the European Union is the only important intervener in the region, but it is also the case, especially in relations between the candidate states in undergoing transition and the European Union, where many of the requirements, budgetary and financial and fiscal requirements of membership in the Union, amount to a demand to dismantle social policy, whether we're talking about social policy in terms of social support for individuals and families, or whether we're talking about protection of employment and protection of markets. Sometimes this is an insurmountable challenge because why do these social policy instruments exist in the first place? It might be possible to refer to ideology, that they derive from socialism. It might be possible to refer to ethics, saying that this is an obligation of the state. But on a practical political level, the main reason that states engage in intervention in social environments is to buy social peace, that is, to prevent the development of opposition, in particular revolutionary opposition to regimes, by meeting people's needs. And buying social peace is not like buying a large kitchen appliance where you spend the money once for your refrigerator and have it for another 10, 15 years. It's more like buying a magazine subscription. When you stop paying it, you stop receiving it. And so some of these requirements, conditions that are placed from outside, act as constraints on the legitimacy and stability of states, whether they are intended to do so or not. And this has results on the level of internal politics. What are some of those results? First, the rise of protest voting and the rise of violence and extremism, opposition to the project itself. Second, to borrow a phrase that was used in the accession negotiations and negotiations over declaration of independence of Kosovo, a tension between standards, It is the ability to meet needs and to meet requirements on the other hand, and status on the other hand, the position of recognition that a new state or state in transition will receive from a powerful international actor. And much of this contributes also to the residual tension that results from relations among states in the region, that is residual tension from the periods of violence and the demands that are in operation, both for reconciliation or sometimes for compensation on the one hand, and similarly with growing demands coming from whatever the opposite of reconciliation is. We could call it retrenchment, that is the reemergence of ideological positions and exclusive positions that led to violence in the first place. So one of the things that we can see is if we don't look at states in isolation, if we look at them as existing in relation to one another and in relation to powerful international actors, there are several factors that act as constraints on the completion of a successful democratic transition.